Run, Madam Chairman.
We all set? Okay, we'll call the meeting order at 7:04. And I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
One question on the agenda, Donna.
Sure.
Back in December, we had some discussion about forming a trailhead district down
Yep.
by the Eastern Trail. I don't see anything on the agenda about it, I don't see anything on the table of contents about it. Are we still considering that?
Yes. All right, the table of contents was just to make it easy for us to look at what we've done so far. That doesn't mean we're done. Since we had so much stuff scattered here and there, I thought it would be appropriate to put it all in one place.
Oh,
Because, personally, I was going a little nuts with the pages. Because I had some here and some weeks back, and so that was something about an organization, not conclusion. So,
approve the agenda.
thank you. All right, all those in favor? All right. Approval of minutes. Simone sent out the minutes for the last several meetings so that we have a chance to look at them prior to tonight. So I'll go through them one at a time. We have the December 2nd minutes. Anybody have any difficulty with anything there that we need to address? Or if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second? All those in favor? January 6th minutes, same request. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? And February 3rd.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented.
You have a second? All those in favor? It's going to be sparse. One here, right? Thank you very much. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is a discussion of the boundary decision for split lots between R1 and R4 along Limerick Road south of the Eastern Trail. And we have guests who have some concerns about that item, and I'll give you some background. When we first started our discussion basically a discussion of everything, we decided that the previous comp plan, as the map was drawn, the various district boundaries didn't follow lot lines as a general rule. They were just basically straight lines that split lots and created some general havoc for the planning board from time to time. So we thought since we were doing a sort of general revision of the districts, it would be appropriate to follow lot lines. In many cases, that was a fairly easy thing to do. However, this little stretch of territory from the Eastern Trail on the Limerick Road south, you see a lot of the lots that are on the left side of Limerick Road are nicely split by the existing boundary line. So what's in the green color is currently R4, and what is in the light yellow is currently R1. Now the basic differences there is R1 is a 1 acre minimum lot size zone intended for growth of the town in terms of residential growth primarily. And R4 is the rural conservation area with a 3 acre minimum. We thought it was appropriate for this particular section to ask the landowners specifically how they would like their lot to go. Would you like to, you know, put all of it in R4 or all of it in R1? And then we can very easily draw the line to follow that. So we're looking for your input as opposed to just us looking at it and say, well, yeah, this, that, or the next thing looks good. So.
So this doesn't have anything to do with commercial zoning or anything?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No,
And
this is-
another thing that we discussed also was the fact of trying to be a little bit more, to allow more things even in the, you know, those zones and stuff as far as what you can do with your property. I think that was one of the things, wasn't it, as far as
Well, yes, the other thing,
large owners
another,
to do, not to be as restricted, like right now, if you're a large owner in the R1 district, there's only certain businesses that you're allowed to do, and it doesn't take into consideration the fact that you do have a big buffer area, and we're trying to look at those, you know, things to see about including more business options, and, or not just business options, but more options for large landowners that are in other districts.
specifically, one of the things that came up was animal husbandry. If you're an R1 and you have 1 acre lot rule, so to speak, because the idea is that you have tremendous proximity to your neighbors, but you happen to own a 100-acre parcel, there's no reason why you can't have a reasonable number of animals, because it's a larger lot than you might have in R4, for example, where it's a 3-acre minimum. So we're trying to balance that out and not be as restrictive to some of the larger landowners, just because of the accident of having been lumped into R1 or R2. Now, in this particular case, if your lot is sizable and is split between R1 and R4, and you're more interested in, you know, keeping it rural, agricultural, that type of thing, then R4 is, you know, perhaps a more logical choice. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you'd be terribly restricted if you kept it in R1 either.
And this is the list of permitted uses currently in the R1 district. And conditional uses. And aside from the things that are associated with shoreline zoning, it's rather limited what's allowed in the R1 district. I don't think I've got it in our R4 district.
So if the land is split up between R1 and R4, you don't have to go with all R4 or all R1, is that what you're saying?
Well, our thinking was that, yes, you should pick one or the other
You can't have
to
both.
avoid the
No, we
split
have
lot.
both right now.
Right, that's,
Because the split lot situation creates issues in terms of, you know, potential use and going to the planning board, and it's, you know, how much acreage is in this district and how much is in that district. It muddies the waters considerably.
So you're looking for all the landowners to agree on this, to do it all one shot, or
No.
individuals can choose what they want to do?
Individual choice. The only landowners for whom we would, you know, kind of make the arbitrary decision would be somebody who just doesn't tell us anything. And, you know, we have asked in as many ways as possible, and I think Tad's heard from pretty much everybody, either via email or phone call or tonight's session or another session that we had previously.
But primarily, this is just to simplify things and straighten things out.
Make things a little bit easier than they have been in the past, but both for the landowner and for the planning board, should things change in the future, yeah.
Because there were other districts that were also had split lots here and there, and that we've tried to kind of clean that up as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, whether it's in the commercial district or, you know, down in the other section of town or, you know.
If you need orientation, is there a request for orientation on the map, or do you all recognize your lots? That's figured probably good. Part of the reason, we're not sure exactly why this was done. Tried to do a forensic study to determine what logic went along with this. Yeah, I know.
We found no fingerprints.
There's no difference. It's like ancient aliens. I'm gonna make giant assumptions. But we do know one thing. If we look at the soils maps, which I can pull up, and I don't want to terrify anybody, As you as property owners know, it's very wet back here along the river. It's all pretty much floodplain soils, a lot of hydric soils, wetland soils back there. And the boundary undulates through here. You probably know it better than we could possibly know your property. But according to the SCS soil maps, it's pretty substantial. And the only other thing that I can presume is that the comp plan committee, the planner, or the planning board, or whoever did this, might have taken that into an account. But the board here thinks that I'm just stretching myself too far, assuming there was logic involved, so.
Well, there was some logic involved, proximity to the river,
Right.
and then keeping lots that are
You were
close
on
to the
that,
road.
weren't you? Yeah.
Yes, there was some discussion at least.
So soils, proximity to the river, and proximity to the road were deciding factors.
Yeah.
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 Okay. The soil conditions still exist, and we still have a net residential density in this town, which means that you might be zoned for R1, but you're still gonna discount your wetland soils. The river's still there, and the water that's out there is still there. I've been back in some of those that water. You know what an impediment is. But- So, in an attempt to at least make it make some sense, that's what the committee is considering right now. Now, I can say from what I know, for instance, Bert wants to keep his in R4, he wants it all R4. I haven't talked to the Keezers, so I don't know. Pam Drew has sent me an email saying she's not sure. If we change the animal husbandry element of R1, that's fine with her. R4 would be more advantageous. I have a copy of her letter if you would like me to disperse it, or if you would like me to read it, I can do it. Your preference now?
Well, we can disperse it, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, it's just a very quick email she shot back to me, because I sent it to her last night and said, where are we on this? And her concern was setbacks, which is actually a function for the planning board to consider. I know Peter Lovejoy has expressed interest in his property, which is right here, being all R1. In fact, he's in the process of doing subdivision. I've talked to the various members of the Labby family and on Judy Ann, and they're here, and they can certainly express themselves on what they feel on that, but the bent fair was towards R1 because their lots are split between R1 and R4, and this back portion isn't even any part of R1. The soil's a little better back over here along the trail area than they are over here. And the Emersons, right,
We're leaning towards the R1.
towards the
We
R1.
don't have a problem with it.
So, now you draw the line.
Well, all right, which is the Emerson?
The Emerson parcel's this is the Lovejoy parcel.
Okay.
This is Judy Ann, through here. Phil, how's the family feeling on that, so?
I think you're all leaning pretty much kind of
R1?
one.
Okay. All right, I think so, because we talked to you, we talked to Sean, and we talked to Tammy.
So that would make that whole upper section basically R1.
This would all be R1.
Right,
Basically
so-
along the eastern trail.
That's
on the,
easy.
South side, that's easy. And we get in, then this is Lovejoy, and they've only got a small portion.
Right,
And then this is the Emerson parcel.
right, so.
What does Emerson want?
Leaning towards one. If you're leaning towards one, then that's a logical place. You come down the Eastern Trail, just hang a right, well, depending on which way I'm facing here, but.
But then we have Keysar,
South-
we have no idea what's
Yeah.
happening with Keysar. I have no input on that in here. And then I've got, and then this is Pam,
Yeah,
and then this is Bert. So,
What's that little strip between, my piece, up, right there?
that's a right of way.
It's okay, it's 100 foot, probably?
I don't know.
Yeah,
On
okay.
this scale, it looks like it would
Yeah,
be.
okay.
It looks like a big,
That's
pretty
what I
big right
thought.
of way. So, it's not right of way, it's a strip of land, it's an actual access strip in fee. It's not an easement, it's in fee, so they own that access strip.
Who owns the access strip?
Keysar. Yeah.
so the south boundary of the Emerson property, Eastern Trail to the south boundary of the Emerson property, and then along that right of way for lack of a better term.
Right.
Everything to the north of that R1, and then potentially, depending upon how Geezers feels, everything to the south of that R4.
Yeah.
That's easy.
As far as Pam Drew's concerned about the setbacks, I know we were talking about setbacks in the R4 zone that need to be reviewed.
And
Yeah,
then,
that's really, that's gonna, it comes down to it's a very important function.
She wants more setbacks in the R1, right? Because
Well, she likes the idea, Pam's problem is Pam's got a farm. She's got a farm going there, and right now, she's limited. Technically, if we wanted to pursue it, she might be on the edge of our limitations of the R1. If she wanted to expand her operation at all, she would be severely limited by the 5 animal unit requirement that we have, which is based on pounds or weight, not based on numbers. So you can have 1,000 chickens.
but that
chickens
potentially
and lots.
changes though.
Yeah, and
When
that's,
you're looking
that's
at
the
lot
only, but you're
sizes,
saying
right?
potentially changes,
Right,
and that's,
depending, yeah.
that's what Pam's concerned about
And I don't
is,
blame her.
yeah, because the planning board's been through this a couple times, so.
So the plan is for larger lots to change that to allow that.
To make it function of the lots,
And at that
and
same
setbacks from
time-
residents and control of any potential nuisances. And, frankly speaking, as this board has said, also type of animal unit.
Right.
I mean, there's some animal units that can have more of an impact upon neighbors than other animal units.
So is it,
Certainly.
the planning board thought that when they do that, they change the setbacks for those parcels?
That would be their charge. Whether they do it is gonna be something that, frankly speaking, I would think.
Because you gotta think of the small lots that are next to those pieces of property, right? The
Right.
residences that are right next to those pieces of
Well,
property.
the language that we have put in here very clearly states that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There has to be, and that's, Dan, you were on the board at that time, we struggled with this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the issue was, the issue the whole time was trying to figure out exactly how to establish some sort of universal or some sort of reliable and enforceable setback that dealt with that kind of changing situation, or where the adjacent resident is,
We couldn't change it back then because of the language in the comp plan didn't allow it.
pretty much.
Right. Well, we're
So
trying to
that's
fix
why
some
we're
of those
here.
things, yes.
And that's why you folks are here
Yeah.
on Tuesday night. So.
All right. Do you folks have any other questions or comments? Or-
I don't,
Okay.
I'm all for it.
That was too easy.
We haven't heard from the Geezers yet. I don't know how to get a hold of them, frankly, except send them another.
I could try to hook up with him.
Could you?
Uh,
I'd appreciate
Yeah, he
it.
lives down the port.
Yeah.
And, I'll see if I can hunt him down and give him your name and number and
Please do.
have him contact
No,
you.
that would be
I
very helpful,
appreciate
thank
that,
you.
because he's not in the book,
Right.
there's nothing. That's a terrible thing about cell phones now. People disappear off the planet. I could ask them to say, but,
I'll see if I can locate him.
okay. Thank you. That would be great. And we want to do this, we want to try to make some decisions on this soon, because we're going to be going, we want to take all this to town meeting. And at the very, very latest, we can do this, what, 1st of May?
Yeah.
We have to have a,
So can I just ask, what is your motivation to have everybody be,
It's just
just,
simple.
what is the,
we'll get that to the board.
I think basically we've been trying to do, if we distill it down to its very essence, one thing, and that is to make property owners able to do the most reasonable things with their property in the easiest manner possible. And having had someone else draw a random line through the middle of your backyard is not necessarily property owner friendly. So we've been trying to get rid of some of that. And the same thing in terms of, as I explained before, expanding some of the uses for people who have larger lots. If you have 100 acres, it doesn't matter where it is in town, you can raise a couple cows and not bother your neighbors. But yet, because of where the lines were drawn and they happened to be in that spot, they were very restricted. So we're trying to fix some of those things.
And the way the ordinance is written today, for somebody, a property owner to come in and say, geez, I want to be able to do this, and to try to figure out the ordinance, it's
simplifies
Yeah,
it.
and we have developers that come to us at some time, and, you know, they argue back and forth because it's not very clear, so the plan is to try to make things a lot cleaner, a lot clearer.
Thank you, Tim.
Oh, thank you for asking me. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Guess we're done.
Well, you're certainly welcome to sit and watch some more
That's
exciting
right.
popcorn. So, one property owner is out of the loop. Otherwise, I can come up with an alternative design for this thing.
So everybody south of Keyser, you've heard from? From the
Well,
Keyser
I don't,
property?
yeah, well, I've heard of everybody except Keyser, but Keyser's got the two largest parcels.
Right.
That's the problem. He owns that and that.
Which
one? This one and this one.
Oh, okay, so they're
Now,
together.
the little ones in the front of Keizer are,
That's that small little
house.
that little house near the pond.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, and the other one is.
Yeah,
And this is
Tam.
Pam. So,
So the property south of Keyser, Keyser's properties?
this is Bert, right here.
Yeah, so you've heard from him?
Yeah, I talked to Bert, and then, one of the jurors, was that Richard? Yeah, Richard was at that public hearing. This is his land, and he's really kind of out of it. This is-
He's all in one zone.
Yeah, he's all in one zone, he's all in the R4, and this is the swimming area. And then this area is the DB area, and we had talked to these folks when we were doing the public hearing. These are the folks from Winthrop.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Remember them?
Yeah.
And they decided, they wanted to go in the DB district and then said, no, we're gonna stick with we're gonna stick with the R4 district, so. And they went back and forth, they put ping pong with this for a while, but they finally decided they wanted to go
So
that.
the other folks along the Limerick Road that are now in R1, the smaller pieces of property, would be the intent to keep those in R1?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then everything on the east side of, obviously stays the way it is.
Yeah.
Because there's no division.
So Bert sort of wants to stay R4, so we would do that, we would go, if Keyser, is that their name?
Yeah.
Wants to go 1, we go 1, 1.
So the blue areas would go green?
No, the blue areas are, this blue area, pay no attention to, that's
No, no,
the
yeah.
NRC district.
The DB.
This stays the same, because these people have already, we've already talked to these folks. This is part of the planning board process. And we went through that. You remember when you asked us, the planning board, you actually demanded that the planning board talk to every property owner. And we went through that series of
Yeah.
process, so we talked to all these people. And then, they're still skeptical, but they wanted to be in the DD1. This is Indian Acres back in here. So this is actually part of Faulkner's over there. This is Drew, this is Bert, and then these are all the small little properties. And as you recall, the proposed DB2 ends at Strickland Lane. And interestingly enough, I already have it, somebody wants to put in a business on this property.
Wow.
Yeah, let's buy up some business. Yeah.
What's that line right there?
Which one?
And Bird's property, that's what it is.
Yeah, the front lawn.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a separate line.
I guess so, or else it's a mistake. I thought it was all, I looked at the map and it showed all one parcel. Yeah, so I don't know
What's
what's
the action of that property? Must be- If that is a piece of property,
Must be
must be
Oh,
taken
that's
right away.
that's where his house is.
That's what his
Yeah.
house is, yeah, his house is there. You know, it
But
might be
that-
divided because he has a conservation easement.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's probably just a separate deeded piece because of the tree growth area and the conservation easement that he's got going. So, but it's still the same owner.
Yeah, it's all, I asked him about that, I said, yeah, even if I wanted to, which I don't, he emphasized, I can't do anything about it because I've got a conservation easement, I put it on there, and that's the way we wanted to do it. And that was a family decision that they had, he talked with the kids about, and they wanted to keep it in open space.
So it doesn't matter for him then, because he ain't doing
No,
nothing with it anyway.
well, he just assumed I have the pressure, if it's R40, he assumes somebody's gonna be knocking on his door.
And does Keyser own both of those,
He owns these two properties, so, you know, he's
inclusive
basically.
of those,
But it's later only.
Yeah, yeah.
inclusive of the ones out front?
No.
He goes up to here.
The house is a separate.
The house is a separate lot, he's got a right of way here between Pam Drew's and the Emerson piece, and that's down in that low area. Actually, I think there's a culvert that goes through there, so.
So that's a separate owner right there, flat out front.
Yeah, the lot out front, that's a separate owner. So, I think you're gonna find that this is really, gets really bad in here,
Mhm.
and it gets pretty bad back in here too. And Bert says, no, this line should be up closer because he gets very bad back here. I've been on the Faulkner property and it's not pretty good out there either, so,
That small piece next to Pam, that's that a 1 acre lot?
yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna carve the R4 around that, I take
Well,
So, well, wait, wait,
it depends what Keyser wants. I mean, and, you
it.
know,
So you
the
think
question
somebody else
is,
owns that?
no,
no, Keyser owns,
No, that-
Keyser owns all of this, he doesn't own that.
That's what I mean,
That's
that
what
piece,
we're
what are you gonna do with that
talking
little
about.
piece?
They still keep him in the R1.
That's what I mean, because everything's gonna scoot around that, okay.
We're gonna keep that in the R1.
Unless the keys are gonna be all in R1, right?
That isn't, yeah.
Well, you've got keys of one,
And you know-
that small lot would still stay in
Oh,
there.
well.
That's right, yeah.
And even if we put the small lot in R4, what difference would it make?
We can't do anything.
Can't
do
do
anything
anything much with it.
He's
The only way
have
that
to
would
get the
change
property
is if we-
structure out.
Well, if that's a 1 acre lot, it's conforming. But an R4, it's not.
It's not conforming, that's a very good point. We don't wanna
Okay,
do
so,
If it's an acre.
in
Maybe
a
I
can't.
rundle, in a rundle, that means what?
that. It may understood bank.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Okay.
yeah.
It does matter to people.
Yes,
Mm,
good argument.
mm.
Okay. So we're as far as we can go with this, I think, tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if you agree with following those boundaries.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a little staccato there, let's say, if the Keysers say we wanna be in the, we want that property that is currently in the R4 to stay in the R4, then we'll keep that line, we'll hold that line and then bring it around Bert's land all entirely. I can't imagine why anybody would want to surrender their frontage on Limerick Road as an R1. Quite frankly, I think it would be a dumb move, even if you have no intentions of ever really developing it, it just reduces the value of the property on its surroundings.
but either way, we're not gonna split Keezer's lots. He's gonna pick one or the other.
If somebody wants to split their lot, I don't see a problem with that, do you? Really, think about it. They want to split their lot, you know, they don't have a problem with it the way it is right now. That's fine. Because remember, if you really want to do natural resource stuff, like Richard had basically told us that he wanted to stay in R4, even though he's not in the district we were considering, we weren't considering him to be changed, because he wants to log. He wants to put sawmills there. He wants to have natural resource operations out there, which you cannot do in the R1. I don't think we're adding any, I would say, more rural types of activities in the R1 in our proposal to the planning board. So, this is a suburban zone that we're creating.
Just in 10 years, when somebody comes back and says, what the hell was that line there? We'll know.
We'll have a record.
We need to have proper documentation,
That's
and
right.
we'll be all covered.
We'll have it on video.
If sewer comes, but at the same time, if sewer comes up Limerick Road, if we get sewer, going up Route 1, and somebody sends it up somebody sends it up the Limerick Road, and it's more viable because it's 1 acre zone versus 3 acres.
Yeah.
Then the zone is already in place.
All right, well,
They're doing it age restricted, they got that.
let's see what the Keezers have to say, and then we can.
I'll send them one more letter, and
Fire
hopefully,
alarm.
the Emersons will get, pass along the message.
Yeah. All right. Okay. The next little bit of old business is to go back to the rural conservation, what you did about for, and finalize the description. Last meeting, we went through the language with our usual fine-tooth comb and made some editing suggestions, which I typed up basically as soon as I got home, because it was such a mess on my paper, I didn't want to lose any of the pieces. So I think I got it right. I did discover a typo today in the last paragraph. There's an